Good evening. Welcome to our Good Friday observance. Please join me in the responsive call to worship. O God, we trust you to be with us.
As we hear your story and images flash through our minds.
Pictures of a garden, soldiers, swords.
Pilate, a trial, the crack of a whip, a crown of thorns,
The thud of a hammer, the cross.
and death,
Guide us, Lord, on this difficult journey,
strengthening our commitment to follow you.
so that out of this darkness,
We may become people of your light. Amen.
Even though we're separated by time and space, we're invited to imagine ourselves present, to witness the crucifixion of our Christ. Let us journey together, come to the cross. We'll stand, if you're able, and we'll sing, "Were You There?"
Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Could you men not keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour is near, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." We come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him." Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus replied, "Friend, do what you came for." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. We come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Finally, 2 came forward and declared, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days.'" Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God, tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." "Yes, it is as you say," Jesus replied. "But I say to all of you, in the future you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. We come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard and warming himself by the fire, and a servant girl came to him. "You also were with Jesus of Galilee," she said, but he denied it before them all. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another girl saw him and said to the people there, "This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth." He denied it again with an oath, "I don't know the man." After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, "Surely you are one of them, for your accent gives you away." Then he began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know the man." Immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken, "Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." And Peter went outside the courtyard and wept bitterly. Please stand if you are able. Let's sing Ah, Holy Jesus, verses 1 and 2. We come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Yes, it is as you say," Jesus replied. When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him, "Don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you?" But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor. Now, with the governor's custom at the feast to release a prisoner chosen by the crowd, at that time they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked them, "Which one do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For he knew it was out of envy that they had handed Jesus over to him. While Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him this message: "Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him." But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?"
Barabbas.
"What shall I do then with Jesus, who is called Christ?"
Crucify him.
"Why? What crime has he committed?"
Crucify him.
When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that instead an uproar was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. "I am innocent of this man's blood," he said. "It is your responsibility." All the people answered, "Let his blood be on us and on our children." Then Pilate released Barabbas to them, but he had Jesus flogged. Then he handed Jesus over to be crucified. We come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand and knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said. They spit on him, and they took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. If you're able to stand, we're going to sing "O Sacred Head, Now Wounded," page 98. We come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
So the soldiers took charge of Jesus. Carrying his own cross, he went out to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. And here they crucified him. We come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, there they crucified him, along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. Jesus said,
Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing.
We come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence? We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him,
I tell you the truth, today you'll be with me in paradise.
we come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
When Jesus saw his mother there and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother,
Dear woman, here is your son.
and to the disciple,
Here is your mother.
from that time on, this disciple took her into his home. We come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
From the 6th hour until the 9th hour, darkness came over all the land. About the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice,
Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani.
which means,
My God, why have you forsaken me?
when some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." We come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
Later, knowing that all was now completed, and so that the scripture would be fulfilled, Jesus said,
I'm thirsty.
A jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on a stalk of the hyssop plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. We come to the cross, to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
When he had received the drink, Jesus said,
It is finished.
With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. We come to the cross.
It was now about the 6th hour, and darkness came over the whole land until the 9th hour, for the sun stopped shining, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Jesus called out in a loud voice,
Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.
and Jesus breathed his last. A centurion, seeing what had happened, honored God and said, Surely this man was innocent. Please stand if you're able. Sing When I Survey the Wondrous Cross. We come to the cross to witness the magnitude of God's love for each and every one of us.
Now there was a man named Joseph, a member of the council, a good and upright man, who had not consented to their decision and action. He came from the Judean town of Arimathea, and he was waiting for the kingdom of God. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body. Then he came and took the body away. Joseph was accompanied by Nicodemus, the man who earlier had visited Jesus at night. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds. Taking Jesus' body, the two of them wrapped it with the spices in strips of linen. This was in accordance with Jewish burial customs. At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid.
We came to the cross.